this one's a milestone. This is the first game that we can definitively call an RPG on the Famicom. Zuno Senkan Gall was definitely not an RPG. And if someone wanted to call Bokosuko Wars an RPG, I wouldn't fight with them, but I'd think they were wrong. Hydlide Special ticks all of the RPG boxes, though. You've got stats, you improve them by gaining levels, you get levels by killing monsters, you can save your progress, and of course the most vital thing to define an RPG, you kill slimes. Oh, do you kill so many slimes. I know Hydlide has a pretty bad reputation over here, but in Japan it's a foundational game. Between the original computer version and the various ports, it sold over 2 million copies. The Famicom getting a version under the title Hydlide Special was a big deal. So typically I play for about an hour to try to get enough coverage for these videos, but I knew Hydlide needs something special. So I blocked out an entire evening to play it, and I followed along with a video playthrough to make sure I was getting everything. I wound up making it about 2/3 of the way through the game. The thing that slowed me down? The relentless, unceasing grind. The story in Hydlide is that a princess got zapped with magic and split into 3 fairies. As the hero, it's your job to locate the 3 fairies and restore the princess. You'll have to build up your strength and scour the world for treasures that give you special abilities. The difference between Hydlide and Hydlide Special is that the Famicom Hydlide Special adds in the magic system from Hydlide 2. Of course, in the US, there was no Hydlide to confuse the game with, so they dropped Special from the title. The very first thing you have to do when playing Hydlide is grind. Now, if you've played any kind of 80s RPG, then you've done your share of grinding. Fighting the same monsters over and over again until you have enough power to move on in the game is a rite of passage. But the grind in Hydlide Special is... well, I'm not going to call it the worst. After all, there's a lot of terrible 8-bit RPGs out there, and I'm going to play most of them. The grind here, though, is very, very bad. Each screen has a fixed number of enemies on it, and each enemy type can only walk on a certain type of terrain. So on here, there's always 3 slimes. They always stay on the grass. And if I kill one, or one wanders off the edge of the screen, then another one comes in immediately. By default, you're in defense mode, where you're less likely to take damage, but you're also less likely to do damage when you collide with an enemy. Press and hold the A button to go into attack mode. Then bump into enemies to try to hurt them. The best way to do it is to try to bump into enemies from the side or behind, but because the enemies have a bit of a random walk to them, there's no guarantee that they won't suddenly spin into you and cause damage. Okay, so you've been hit. How do you recover? You have to go to a grassy tile, and then wait about 10 seconds, and you recover 1 tick of health. Now there's 4 ticks per life bar, so obviously, once you get hit a few times, you're going to be sitting there quite a while to recover health. But don't worry, you'll level up once you defeat, let me count here, 100 slimes. So yes, if you're playing Hydlide well, your first 10 minutes or so are going to be spent on the same screen, walking in circles and bumping into slimes. The one concession that the game makes that prevents it from being totally nightmarish is that if you press select to bring up the menu, you can save the game. Now we're still about a year out from the first battery backup game, so this save goes away if you turn off the power. But if you do game over, you can restart, and then load, and you'll be back exactly where you were when you saved. Once you've leveled up a couple of times, you'll stop getting experience from slimes, and you'll have to start killing more dangerous things. Things that can still kill you in 2 or 3 hits, but you'll still need to kill 100 of them, and it's not like you heal any faster. There's one more trick to mitigate this a little bit. In that menu, you can change the game speed to run fast. If you can set yourself up at a choke point where you won't take any damage, then you can poke your head in, kill a few guys, jump out, heal back up, and repeat. Once you've built up a few levels, you'll probably want to switch it to fast speed anyways for your healing time. then switch back to slow when you're fighting. The game only has 25 overworld screens, and maybe a dozen dungeon screens, so there's really only about 15 minutes of gameplay in Hydlide. The rest of the time, it's grind, grind, grind. Of course, if you're not following a walkthrough, you'll need to explore a little bit. But the map is so limited that I don't think exploration adds that much time to the gameplay. There's also a password system in Hydlide. There's even a spot in the manual to write down your passwords. From mine, I can see that the kid who owned this copy before took a whole 5 days to beat the game. Also, they seem to have bought it only a week after it came out. Okay, you finally leveled up. Now let's go exploring. The first thing to do is grab this cross. With the cross in hand, you can go kill the vampire. The vampire will kill you almost instantly if he attacks you, so you'll have to chase him around the maze a little bit to get behind him. Once he's dead, the lamp appears. With the lamp, you can navigate all the caves. And from there it becomes a matter of collecting all the treasures. You'll want to stop and grind for a while when you encounter enemies that you can actually kill and give experience points. The wisps are a good choice. So are these eye monsters. A couple of the dungeon screens have Tower of Jiraga style methods of revealing their treasure. The key is to only attack one type of monster. You use the B button to select what type of magic you want to use. You won't be able to pick anything until you have at least 2 bars of magic, and you can only select spells that you have enough magic to cast. Pressing A and B casts the spell. Turn reverses monster directions and it only works for a moment. Fire and ice are just projectile attacks. Given the long time it takes for magic to recover, it's not really worth it to use those. Wave will penetrate enemies, so it can be used to knock out an entire row. And flash hits all enemies on the screen. The wave spell reveals something special when used in the desert. Knock out 3 sandworms in one shot, and then this happens. Afterward, you can cast unlimited spells for a short time. But all in all, magic just isn't worth it. Given the huge success of Hydlide, it's no surprise that there's sequels. The third game in the series, which goes by Super Hydlide in the United States, was ported to the Famicom. This game is a slog to play though. The constant low-speed grinding that's required to play, it's just not fun. Which isn't to say that I think the game's completely worthless. This is a pretty ambitious game, and a lot of people will take what Hydlide does and do it better. It is kind of worth checking out for an hour or so just to see the roots of genre. Maybe just play it until you can't stand that 10-second song loop anymore.